For years, some Western countries have perpetuated the idea that China is entrapping African nations in a so-called debt trap. But what does the data really tell us? According to calculation of World Bank data by the British NGO Debt Justice, only 12% of African governments' external debt at the end of 2020 is owed to Chinese lenders. In stark contrast, a whopping 35% is owed to Western private lenders, banks, asset managers, and oil traders. This is a critical distinction that often goes unreported. What's more, the average interest rate on private lender loans is around 5% in 2021, compared to just 2.7% for loans from Chinese lenders. Tim Jones, head of policy at Debt Justice, put it succinctly. Western lenders blame China for debt crisis in Africa, but this is a distraction. The truth is their own banks, asset managers, and oil traders are far more responsible, yet the G7 are letting them off the hook. China's engagement in Africa is largely centered on developing infrastructure that drives economic and social development. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly strained African economies, adding to their debt service burden. But another major factor has been the U.S. Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes and the strengthening of the U.S. dollar. This has inflated the cost of servicing debt, especially as most of it is denominated in foreign currencies like the U.S. dollar and the euro. For example, Ghana's currency, the cedi, lost more than 33% of its value against the US dollar in 2022, further exacerbating the debt crisis. China, however, has taken steps to alleviate this pressure. As a key supporter of the G20 Debt Service Suspension Initiative, China has signed agreements or reached consensus with 19 African countries on debt relief, suspending the most debt service payments of any G20 member. This underscores China's commitment to being a responsible partner in Africa's development. A 2022 study by the University of Fort Hare in South Africa supports this view, concluding that Chinese infrastructure loans have positively contributed to economic growth in 15 African countries. This study also highlights that China respects the sovereignty of these nations, offering loans without the imposition of external governance or policy changes. A stark contrast to the conditions often attached to Western aid, which many countries blame could harm their sovereignty. African leaders have been clear in rejecting the debt trap narrative, emphasizing their sovereignty and agency in choosing partners that align with their national interests. For long, Western narratives have framed China-Africa cooperation in a negative light, but the reality is that China's investment in Africa is based on mutual benefit and respect for sovereignty. As we move forward, it's crucial to dispel misleading narratives and focus on genuine partnerships that support the sustainable development of Africa.